Welcome to NFL Daily, where I'm thrilled to have the original crew back together. I'm Gregg Rosenthal here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio with Patrick Claybon and Jourdan Rodrigue. And when I say the original crew, the very first episode of NFL Daily was taped with the three of us right here. And it had the same topic we're going to do on today's show, the reasons for joy in this upcoming season.
And I love the callback. I love the feeling of deja vu in the topic and being with you guys. And yeah, spoiler alert, this is one of the things that I enjoy.
Yeah, and I love that I'm not going to cry this time.
We
got a lot of ball game left, Jourdan.
In front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Super joyful about that.
I definitely don't plan to cry either. I definitely
That's what you think.
Not getting deja vu in the sense that I feel like I'm in a much different place than I was at that time. We were just launching the show, and it felt very jarring and difficult, but it was a really enjoyable show. And I thought a fun way to start this adventure on NFL Daily, which is, we appreciate the game, and we're focusing on like the stuff that it gives us, and we didn't hit it in the off season. I thought it'd be a perfect, we're doing all these previews, all this stuff, a perfect little thing right before the season starts of the reasons why we are excited about this 2025 season specifically. So it can be bigger picture stuff as well, but I'm looking at like what's unique about this season. So no doubling up from last year. Patrick,
I can't bring anything back.
No, you could if you want.
Okay.
I couldn't if I tried. Don't remember.
Getting the tape review, remember?
Right, I don't remember what I said either. Yeah, I do know at some point it got emotional. I don't expect that. Why don't I kick us off then?
Lead us off, Greg.
Because I'm just gonna go for like a really simple thing that I've talked about so much on this show that I don't need to repeat it. But I'm just excited for Travis Hunter. Like to me, he is joy. He is the only like one player that I picked for this, but he is not only playing on both sides of the ball, and I think is getting not slept on, but I, for instance, have higher expectations for like his fantasy potential than I think others, and just his potential in general, just because he had a relatively quiet training camp. Everyone knows what a unique athlete he is. But I also think the joy that he brings when you put a microphone in front of his face, and then the joy with which he plays, which really struck me at Colorado. Like, people know what great energy he has to like play 125 whatever snaps it is a game. You can kind of see like literally on the field the joy that he plays with. So I'm looking to just like draft off those fumes all season long.
And clearly he's a football nerd. Right,
yeah.
Spending all of this time and enjoying the game. But I think what shines for me is a lot of Travis Hunter's joy for football is his joy for people, and the people of Jacksonville and the way that he interacts with his teammates and stuff. His joy is our joy, and so it's worth enjoying. And I hope it works out on both sides.
There's an element of earnestness to him and pure joy instead of the like brand joy or like manufacture, you know what I mean? There's like an earnestness to him, and it's not cynical, and the NFL hasn't hurt him yet, and I hope it never does. But I'm just saying, it's like, and that's what I was so fired up when they made the move to draft him, because like I know James Gladstone, and I know that Jake Temmie, and I know Liam Cohen, and I know what that feeling was and how earnest they were about bringing this really special human being into their building, and just like turning this sort of cynically gravitating organization into a place of like earnest love of football. And that's what he represents to me, starting that process over there. And I'm so excited to see what he does this season and beyond. And you know what? I have no expectations. I just want him to go out there and be himself and play his game and learn and be one of the best players in the NFL for the long haul. Doesn't necessarily have to do it right away.
And to be clear, we're not brand joy. We're not fake brand joy. We got the real love of the game.
Unless a dishwashing detergent company would like to make an offer.
That's fair.
You know what also is joyful? Money.
Yes. So you can be rich. You can be intangibly rich.
Hey!
Like Travis Hunter. All right, give us one.
Duval. Since we started with Travis Hunter, I will go.
Duval.
I will go with a rookie wide receiver. Isaac Tesla hits
Yes.
every bit of my joy, especially on the heels of seeing Ladd McConkey be 6 feet tall and run a 4.340 and burn past safeties and still get, this guy is crafty. He's just out there, a student of the game with explosiveness. Isaac Tesla is 6'4", ran a 4.43, almost a 40-inch vertical. Nobody will be able to deny his explosiveness when he makes a play, and that's why it gives me the joy. It also gives Brad Holmes another "I told you so" moment where it's like, I don't know, you're taking this Jahmyr Gibbs character, you're trading in the 3rd round for this Tesla guy, and it, so far so good, and I'm excited to see it. I have joy for the explosive rookie out of Arkansas.
I had joy watching some of the blocks that he was throwing in the preseason. I was sitting there and I was like, this is it. This guy's got it. Not just the explosive playability and the frame and he just fits out there on the field with that offense, with the style of offense they want to play. But also, I mean, he's in there sticking his face into the garbage and digging some stuff out. And it's just really, I love watching that. I stood up out of my seat. It was 2 weeks ago in the second preseason game. He threw a block on a play. I stood up out of my seat. I was like, oh my God, this is it. Brad Holmes, take a bow.
I've tried to check, my biases because, when I look at him in the preseason, I think of one man and one man only, and I haven't said it on the show because I'm trying not to do that Ladd McConkey thing where I'm just comparing him to the other white guy or doing helmet scouting. But a completely freaky, oversized athlete from the University of Arkansas.
Matt Jones?
Back in the day, Matt Jones gave me the most joy possible. How fun was freaking Matt Jones? Now, he played quarterback at Arkansas, but he turned into a wide receiver. And he could be where Matt Jones, jogged. Isaac Tesla can run.
Yeah. If not for Matt Jones, what would we have? Just
breaking barriers.
A world of promise. Wow, I'm so glad you went because that's all
I've thought about ever since.
Patrick joy.
And I was like, how is everyone not talking about this? Here's why, because no one in our control room even knows who Matt Jones is. But he was a first-round pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars who played quarterback in college, who was converted to receiver just because he was so big, strong, and freaky athletic. And didn't quite work out. He had some drug issues, but
there's so much Matt Jones lore where you wonder like, and I like, why, Patrick, you're going 5 minutes on Matt Jones. He leapt off the screen.
He was incredible.
Naming some guys.
And in 2025, he probably would have got to stay at quarterback and play his career. Maybe things would have come out differently. But man, if you want to get deep into some random naming some guy stuff, go watch some Matt Jones highlights.
He was a problem. All right, you're up. That's Jourdan.
Okay. One of my most joyful things that happened throughout the course of last season, and really this happens every season, is we get to see somebody that we were excited about, be on the fence about, see even unaware about, break through and just have an entirely refreshing season. I think we knew Jaden Daniels was capable of being good, but he was one of those players that you're just like, man, this is better than we thought it was going to be. Brock Bowers, I would put him in that role as well. If you happen to punish yourself watching any Las Vegas Raiders tape last year, it just was so cool to watch all of the different things he can do. I respect the offseason aesthetic decisions he has made. I respect that for him. And I think that this year I'm hopeful for a few different guys that I really want to see break out, and this would bring me joy, and I expect these guys to bring me joy. Travion Henderson, running back for the Patriots. Josh Simmons, the left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, who I've been high on, and Greg, we were high on in our draft process, and Emeka Egbuka as the chairperson of the Emeka Egbuka Club.
Are we going Emeka? That's like how we say my wife's name.
I said Emeka, right?
I don't know. It's a tough one. Is it Emeka?
Yeah, I've been saying Emeka. I'm going to need to get deep with him and have this actual conversation, because so many times guys in their rookie year are completely fine with us drop kicking their names, and they'll come back, maybe 2 or 3 years later or after
a nice user on social media mentioned to me that it's Emeka, Emeka, and so I automatically slip and I say Emeka, your wife's name, and then now I think it's Emeka, a little bit more emphasis on the E. If I'm wrong, someone please reach out.
I don't want me sidetracking this with a name conversation to distract from what a perfect situation he's in, too. Mm-hmm. Right off the bat, I'm not saying it's a good thing that Chris Godwin is hurt, but they need Egbuka to produce like
Yeah.
right away. And that offense.
And Jalen McMillan taking a little bit of time too. And they love Tez Johnson. They love the backflipping guy into the end zone. By the way, straight leg backflip, very hard to do. Never attempted it myself. I would probably break every bone in my body. But I love this fit for Egbuka, and I love his collaboration with Baker Mayfield already. Baker Mayfield's been really high on him. I absolutely love this for Josh Simmons, that he's on the field the entirety of training camp, that he really looks like he could be the real deal. The thing that also kind of brings me joy is like I'm about to become insufferable about this man if he does turn into the player that we think he could be. The downside is that Chiefs fans will also be insufferable about this.
I mean, yeah.
But I love all three of these guys. I think Travion Henderson is so special. I was talking to a coach about him when I was at joint practices, and just star potential, captain material, somebody who is just, you're always a play away from a big explosive from him. And I just think that he's just special.
I love it. I think it's it was a fun draft class. I think we're going to see a lot of like instant impact. We're seeing that more, especially on offense lately. I'm going to go more big picture and talk about the kickoff returns. There was so much attention about the new kickoff last year. It was like all we were talking about in August, and it made an impact on the games, but maybe not as big of an impact as we expected back in August. Cut to this year, they changed the rules in such a way that I think the impact is going to be a year delayed. It's going to be so much bigger this year, but no one's talking about it because we already had those sort of conversations, and we don't want to talk about it. And one of the things I love to track in the preseason, Sean Syed over at Summer Sports has been tracking the bouncing kickoffs that different teams have been trying, like the Carolina Panthers, but others have tried as well. I really think it's going to add a whole different dimension to the game that, number one, a ton more kickoffs I think are going to be returned this year, because I think it's really punitive to have to take out the kickoff another 5 yards further. The 35 that's just outrageous to me to have to accept that. And so I think there's going to be more kickoffs, but I think there really is going to be a lot more creativity, not only with how you do the kickoffs and the bouncing kickoffs, which I think will be fun and makes a lot of sense to hit some of those line drives. It's tough to execute, but it could really create some problems and you could get a big time advantage. But I think we're going to see more creativity on the actual kickoff return. So give me a little more special teams.
Yeah.
We're back.
My hope is we move to a day when that becomes more of a live ball situation to return the onside kick, to include the onside kick into this format, to where if you bounce the ball into the landing area, it's a live ball, free for all, everybody goes.
Wait, it's not a live ball?
Well, because they're not bouncing it.
Right.
Right? And so it becomes...
Yeah, they're clearing the landing area instead of bouncing off the landing area.
So, I want to see more innovation in that, to maybe try to get some change of possession, get some speed guys in there.
But I tell you, I think I don't know if is it that hard to be able to line drive it in like they've been doing. I mean, obviously you got to practice a lot, and it's been at some of these special teams practices.
And kickers don't like it. Kickers don't like doing that. It's an unnatural thing for them to have to do, and not something that they grew up practicing. A lot of guys will change cleats out. I noticed this last year. Guys will change cleats out in practice if they're trying and practicing different kicks, and they don't like doing that either because they're used to a plant shoe and a kicking shoe. One of them could be a soccer cleat as well. Here's my thing. Special teams coaches are freaking nuts. We know this. They all are slightly unhinged as personalities. I want to see this get weird. I want to see it get weirder. It didn't get weird enough for me last year. It would bring me so much joy to see this actually go in truly unhinged directions as people just try to figure this out. And so far we've seen a little innovation. We're let's get a little weirder.
I really think it's going to happen. So this is anticipatory joy, but I've seen it a little bit in the preseason. I just don't think people have really thought about how crazy it is to bring the ball out to the 35-yard line. It's really far. It used to be the 20. I mean, that's 15 yards of difference. So it also is going to affect scoring. I'll get to some numbers later of offenses are more efficient than ever, but that's partly because they're just set up to succeed. And I just don't think you can accept putting the ball on the 35. It's just, I think kickoffs are going to explode. All right, Patrick, you're up.
Yeah, I'll go up and include a rule and process change in mind, since we're coming off of the kickoffs, where I am 100% in agreement with you that this will probably have more impact in the future, but the virtual measurement, I think, is eventually going to actually change football. Right now, the referee is still spotting.
This is a reason for joy, the
this
virtual measurement?
This is a reason for joy, Greg, because I think we have made that step. This league is all about incremental change. And yes, the human being is still being like, it looks like the ball's about there. And then the Hawkeye system determines where that spot is in relation to where the spot should be. I mean, the first down in relation to where the ball is. But I think eventually we're going to have the ball being spotted automatically. I believe that there is a hope for that. I think right now it's a little fraudulent. Because we're putting this big show on about where the ball is in relation in the Hawkeye system, and people are going to instantly think tennis, but that's not what's happening.
People, meaning Greg's automatically always thinking tennis. Like, look at his face. Isn't that a tennis face right there?
No, because Greg knows how and as I have fielded accusations of being a shield robot. I guess people can call to this conversation here, because I don't think it's not a robot here, because we haven't changed anything.
Here's the problem.
What it does, though, Greg, is it lays the foundation to actually have an official say, ball's down right now. Somebody else looks at the time code and says, oh, okay, this is where the ball was, and the ball is spotted.
Like that, like the idea of getting to that point, there's going to be a lot of issues with that, of like how far the ball progresses, the chip in the ball. That's another conversation. Like that, they finally are putting cameras on every single goal line and sideline, which literally Bill Belichick has been asking for. Now he's out of the league, but he used to bring this up as a rules proposal decades ago, and seriously, like 15 years ago. Like, how is it that we don't have cameras on every goal line? So all that's positive, because you need that for this virtual measurement. The execution of the virtual measurement system is a disaster right now. I wonder if the NFL is going to go forward with it, because what happened in the preseason to me was not good enough. And I went to some games, and I only watched so many games, and it was malfunctioning everywhere. Half the time, they wouldn't even show it because something happened where whatever's happening execution-wise, it's taken too long, and it's actually literally not even working. Like, sometimes they'll just tell the coaches, it did happen, but we're not going to show it. So I thought it was a pretty big foul ball in the preseason, and if it's not any better, I'm worried it's not even going to last like a week or two.
I would just say you have to start somewhere to try to get this to be as accurate and perfect.
I'm not talking about the accuracy. I'm talking about like the technology.
The process. That's what I'm saying.
Of like they couldn't get it to work for some reason.
Because the process still involves half of the old process.
Yeah.
If you want to actually make it to a point where things work seamlessly, you just need to fully embrace utilizing the technology and come up with something different than somebody standing there and holding the football while the camera and they're in the way and they're doing all this other stuff. Let's just spot the ball digitally.
Sorry, you just hit upon a rant I've been meaning to have. Watching these games, there was like a Saints moment over the weekend where they took like 4 minutes, then didn't announce anything, didn't show the measurement, and just moved forward.
I think because there was a potential challenge in that, right?
You're right, but there's all these little circumstances that they haven't really thought through that happened at the Chargers. A different one, another Saints game, but a Chargers Saints game went to. So there's all these little particulars with the challenges and stuff, and it's just like anything that slows the game down is gonna drive me crazy.
I think what they need to do if they really want to test this out, and versus actually saying let's go for it in real games that count for things, you also need to say, okay, could we get a couple of teams to hold their joint practices at least one day in a stadium, and then we can practice it in the joint practice setting and not just in this limited sample size of preseason games where the entire world is watching you F up, right? Like, I think you just need more reps of the process. I understand we're getting to the process itself. You need more reps of it.
I just have like a nightmare thinking about like it's some big moment of Chiefs Chargers in Brazil, and we're all just waiting for like 7 minutes for the virtual measurement system. All right, you're up, Jourdan.
Bathroom break. Okay, I'm gonna stay on our special teams here for a second, because I had a moment of extreme joy in the preseason that's carrying me just floating into the regular season. We had, let me reiterate, I feel like everybody forgot about this so quickly. We had a kicker hit a 70-yard field goal at near sea level and in dense air. Cam Little, you are a preseason highlight reel, and you are a reason for joy. And a reason for a really great call, which we have here.
We're not joking. This kid can really drill the ball.
Holy smokes. Look at the shot.
He just kicked a 70-yard field goal. Are you kidding me?
Crazy.
I've never seen that. The NFL record. That would be an NFL record.
In the first half. Holy smokes.
That's unbelievable.
Wow.
70 yards.
That's pure joy. That was like one of my most joyful moments of the preseason. I'm floating into the regular season on just like grinning from ear to holy smokes, like Bucky Brooks.
Yeah, what a
like,
great call by
It's a
Bucky.
great call.
Yeah, shout out to the better half of the Move the Sticks podcast, Bucky Brooks. Love to hear it. Brandon Aubrey hit a 66-yarder
Yeah.
in the preseason too. It's happening.
Kickers-
Which goes to your starting at the 35
Yes,
point,
yes.
where it's like if you're playing one of these guys, especially on turf, all right, guys, we got 12 yards.
Right, exactly. Like if you're taking it out to the 35, you pick like 8 yards and you're good.
These kickers are fearless now. And for teams, if a team has nothing to lose, like some of these teams will have nothing to lose at any point than just trying it. This was like in humidity. It was like 80% humidity, thick air, guys. And the football sails 74 yards with room.
I do love that field goal kicking is one very obvious example that the athletes and our players are just better.
Yeah.
And of course they're better. We say that. They're more athletic. Like, they're always better. But they provide just like a very statistical, proof of it. That the kicks keep getting farther and they're like way more accurate. Everyone's mad if like their kicker misses like 7 kicks a year. Like, but in the 90s, you were lucky to have like a 70% field goal kicker, and like that's mostly like inside of 40. Like, we're so much better at field goal kicking than we used to
People
be.
kicking barefoot down there for a short while there in the early days when Gregg was a teenager.
I don't. Tom Dempsey didn't have like a complete foot, and he was getting it done. Sorry.
A complete.
That's why I like the long field goals even more so are a product of joy, because you get in a situation like where you're watching Jake Moody kick one from 42 and you're like, oh man, like this may be this kid's last opportunity. But when somebody lines up a long field goal, it's kind of house money. And we can just enjoy it and not feel bad about the results, where like Cam Little has got a job for a while now.
Yeah.
Just because of that moment. Because if he misses one from 37, like everybody's not going to be like, oh man, it's like, hey man, Cam's just got too much of a leg, dog. Like he rocketed that thing over the net from 32.
The little kicker that could.
Shout out to Tom Dempsey, by the way. I wasn't trying to be harsh there.
Incomplete foot.
It sounded rude. He did not have toes on his right foot, so he had a specially made cleat. They actually outlawed, and he held this record that Cam Little, in theory, broke.
I know. I just love how you said it.
Tulane grad, by the way, Tom Dempsey.
Shout out to Tom Dempsey.
Let's bring it back. Okay, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are in the same division. We know this. They get to play twice a year.
Hold the phone.
I mean, I think because, back in the day, like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady would play each other twice a year when they weren't in the same division after a very brief time together in the old AFCs. You don't think about like Lamar and Joe as maybe the best rivalry or best division rivalry ever. One of them, they're going to become that. I went through it. There really aren't that many examples of two quarterbacks at this level in the same division at their peak. And the two Ravens-Bengals games last year, and they've had some very good ones over the years when two of the quarterbacks have healthy, but it went to another level. The 2 games last year were just absolutely outrageous. So knowing that those 2 games are coming, like we have a very clear, like best 4 quarterbacks in the NFL, and these 2 guys get to play. And I started thinking, like, what other examples are there? Dan Marino, Jim Kelly is probably the number 1. And then after that, like Breeze and Matt Ryan in our era, I would say is probably the best division rivalry. And they really did have a lot of great games, and they were rivals. But Matt Ryan's maybe not quite at that, level of a Joe Burrow. Eli and Romo were great. They're not at that level, I think, individually, but they had a lot of really great games against each other. Peyton Manning and Steve McNair had a brief but really good one, but there really aren't that many. So just a little love for the Lamar Joe Burrow rivalry, and they do face each other Even though they're both quarterbacks, Patrick.
Yeah, but I would push back at the idea. It's like, oh, well, Joe's going to be extra good this time, or maybe you can make the case Jamar Chase is against the Baltimore Ravens specifically. But it's a joy. I clearly am on one side of it, but to be able to watch them and the rings conversation will hound the both of them until one of them does it, but it's stupid. It doesn't make me. It's absolutely vapid. If these guys are playing on Sunday, everybody's watching.
I just love that it's like these two figures in our sport who are at the extreme top of the sport, not just the upper middle, but like all the way at the top, and they're bonded involuntarily and connected by this sort of like demon that shares them both. And I think that that's so. There's something so poetic about that, and I love.
Wait, who's the demon? Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs?
No, the demon is that they haven't won.
Okay,
that's the in the postseason, and they haven't gotten all the way, and so that's like this thing that's like you have to get through each other, but you're also sort of bonded by this darkness,
And they're both very unique men who kind of approach the quarterback position and relating with the public differently.
Yeah.
And to watch them both become more comfortable at different aspects of it has really been a joy. And it's hard to look away.
Quarterbacks with personality. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that for all of us.
I also love just points. The two scores last year, 41-38. That was the overtime game. That was wild. And then 35-34. That's pretty good. Stafford and Favre was another one that came up, but like the Lions didn't hold up their end of the bargain. But they had a lot of good matchups, and Stafford and Rodgers.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Stafford and Aaron Rodgers, they're both peaking essentially at the same time, came into the league near each other.
One of them
that was fun.
Replaced the other one.
I think Lamar
How crazy would that have been?
Burrow outshines them all. All right, let's take a quick break. We will have more reasons for joy after this. So many reasons.
Incomplete foot.
Probably the last name I need to bring up on the Reasons for Joy 2025, again, is Tom Dempsey. But I do feel like I need to correct the record. Not a Tulane graduate, but he hit that field goal, 63 yards, that held as the record for decades, 50 years, at Tulane Stadium.
Ah, there we go.
As a member of the Saints. I just wanted to correct the record. That's really important that got into the show before the season starts.
That's what you wanted to correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Patrick, you're up.
All right, rest in peace to a legend, Tom Dempsey. I'll go the sports medicine route. I am thankful for opportunities for guys like Aiden Hutchinson, Stephon Diggs, Dak Prescott, people who have had success in the league, but injuries derailed their last season, including the entire Lions roster, and especially at a time where we got a lot of pseudoscience out there. We got a lot of people grifting and selling wares and snake oils and all of these things that are going to fix people. And so, the industry itself could be seen as under attack. And I know that there's a lot of people just in the medical field that are working to help people, and they bring me joy to see them work. And some of these NFL players with opportunities to be comeback player of the year, I'm joyful to see them in a league where the injury rate's going to be 100%. Like everybody's going to deal with something, and people are going to put a tag on them and like, this guy it's over, it's a wrap. Somebody's going to win it, and somebody's going to have a great season, and I'm excited to see it.
I think about this a lot when it's the people that we never really see who are working, first of all, to help heal others, right? But then also when these players do end up getting back into a position where they can rehab, and how like lonely and isolating, and they're literally on the other side of a glass often from their teammates, and watching everybody enjoy the camaraderie of being on a team, and then they're in physical pain, and they're working through actually coming back. Rehab is not easy. It is physically very painful to do because you're rebuilding certain muscles, ligaments, everything around whatever part of your body you injured. And so I think of the people too who go in there every day and talk this player out of his own head, who say, we need to get these exercises done today. I think of the people who are out there on the field with them, putting them through these really, at times, frustrating workouts where maybe your body can't do what you need it or want it to do, and how many of those people are all across the league, and they bring me joy. We saw this a couple years ago when the Buffalo Bills staff sprang into action to save Damar Hamlin's life, and how they just went back to work the next day, totally thankless. They had probably, and I was one of these people who requested them to do a story. Like, they had a million requests from all over the world to come talk about what they did, and they just went back to work. And it's just incredible. And that's really what the league runs on right there.
It's just like Wednesday for them, you know?
Yeah.
That's what they do. It's well put, Patrick. So that wasn't Lions specific, right? You're talking about all the people coming back
just
from
everybody, like Christian
returning.
McCaffrey, in that list as well, where there's so much work that we don't see, like Jourdan mentioned, that goes into it, and yeah, somebody's going to get a huge reward off of that, and I'm glad, and again, a lot of people are going to go through that process of getting hurt and have to deal with that, and fortunately, they have entire staffs and people committed to medicine who are going to help them.
It's a little preview of their sports mortality, which mortality talk is hot on NFL Daily.
A lot of death talk.
It's a lot of mortality talk, but they go through their own, career death in a way that I don't think we can really understand, to have that short of a career timeline and to be able to just try to maximize it as much as you can while you're there. And so they get a little preview of that.
And I want to talk about somebody who I feel is pulling his own career death, like inch by inch off of the cliff with this massive rope, and like digging his feet into the dirt to try to get his career back on the sledge, back on track. Brian Daboll. I can
Oh,
see
wow.
it.
Not where I was expecting this to go.
I know. Whoa. I think I've been watching his press conference because I told you guys a couple weeks ago, I'm so suspicious we're going to see this man smile this year. I promise. We're going to see this man smile while speaking at the lectern about Jackson Dart. And I think he's seeing enough, and seeing enough from the future of this player that they've invested in. And maybe not, the week one future, but the longer term, or even the middle term future, even the in-season term of this guy starting for the New York Giants. And I think Brian Daboll is starting to wake up to the fact and like have this, I can actually, he's so close. The other day when they were talking about Jackson Dart's headset mic turning off and him throwing like a 60-yard pass anyway off the wristband, like Brian Daboll almost smiled. I haven't seen that man smile at the lectern since he got the job. And this is someone who is like resurrecting his own trajectory piece by piece if he can get this quarterback where he needs to be. That brings me joy.
I think it would bring him joy. I think it would bring the Giants fans joy. It just makes you wonder, like, why delay the joy? Let's get to the joy. Sorry, Russ.
But the joy is the whole thing right now. Like the greatest show on turf averaged 32 points a game. The 2025 New York Giants in the preseason have averaged 35 points. Stop. I'm just saying. Just putting it out there. The four-headed quarterback. Did you see Cutlets? Cutlets was out there dicing them up last time. He had 3 touchdowns.
They're buddies. It's like Jameis and Jackson Dart and Tommy Cutlets are all in these like videos that the social team is putting out, and they're all having the time of their life down there and they're playing in the preseason together. And like, Russell Wilson's like commenting on the video. He's not in it, but he's commenting on it.
He seems very good on the sidelines with Dart. I do buy this.
He's the team dad.
Yeah, he really is. And these are all, he's literally just, I think it's actually pretty good vibes over there right now. That's what it feels like.
Which is such a huge change. That's a good call. And it's one of the stories I'm excited about that, like, I did not expected to be excited about. I might throw this other one. And by the way, Daboll will always be around. You can't get rid of Daboll. If he's not a head coach again after New York, he's just a guy that I can just imagine is going to have jobs. Offensive coordinator. We're not going to live without Brian Daboll is all I'm saying. I was not expecting, maybe I should have. It seems obvious to you guys that something I am anticipating possibly giving me a little bit of joy is I think I'm kind of sort of back in on the Pats,
We didn't know, Greg.
What?
Yeah.
What? This is news.
This is brand
Can
new
we get the breaking news sound?
Let's do that.
Oh,
Draft
my
Drake
gosh.
May. Let's at least get into it. Well, I was thinking about week 1, and I would have, that's Geno versus the Pats. I got to watch that regardless. But I was thinking, we assign out the games and whatnot. Like, what am I going to watch in the early window?
Breaking news here on
Eric.
NFL Daily. Gregg Rosenthal once again likes the Patriots.
Kind of.
We'll be back
Sort
after
of.
this.
Yeah. Not as into like the coaches.
For the listener, I mean, for the listener, a little, behind the scenes of the show, he did at one point refer to the Patriots using the W word, we. So I don't know if you even caught yourself doing that,
It's worrisome, and it's probably not good for the listener. So I'll try to be careful about that.
Come on.
If it brings you joy, go for it.
We'll see. It brings joy. Things bring pain. It all comes together. It's all
Sunshine,
all together.
rain.
Patrick, you go.
Okay. So I know it feels like a circuitous route to talk about the joy. So I'll start with the positive. Guys like James Harrison, Johnny Unitas, Kurt Warner, at one point were all cut. And looking back towards the end of the preseason and that Tuesday, there are a whole bunch of guys in the NFL that feel like their dream has ended. But I think it's really, there's so many examples that it's just deferred. And this system is not perfect. And sometimes people fall through the cracks via GMs having personal connections. They want to keep their job. They want a certain guy to be successful. And I think one guy who's kind of emblematic of this process is Ben DiNucci, who just got cut for the 7th time. He went to the social media website, twitter.com, and he's in the Atlanta airport. Jourdan knows the exact location.
I know the exact location.
Where he sent the tweet from.
Yeah, I've sat at that bar.
And he pins out a tweet with a picture of a beer. It's like, there's not many beers better than the airport. I just got cut from the NFL for the 7th time beer. Trust me, you wouldn't understand. Obviously, he's going through it. It's a rough situation, but there's so many guys that feel like they lost an opportunity. They'll be back in this league, and they're going to be successful. And I can't. And so it feels weird, but it gives me joy that they have that chance.
It is crazy to think about, because every NFL player has some sort of example of overcoming someone that didn't believe in them. I mean, that's the one thing that
whether they're real or not.
Right. That's the one thing that makes Tom Brady cry, that he had to wait 6 rounds for it, before he got his name called or whatever. But the Ben DiNucci's of the world are the ones who are, I mean, they're the toughest ones out there to just keep putting that uniform on, keep going back year after year. And sometimes you do stick, and sometimes, you're just searching for those moments, and it's tough. I do like the system the NFL has now of expanding practice squads to the point where it really does. It's not a minor league. They could use a minor league, but if you compare it to 15 years ago, it's literally double the amount of players, and they do make a lot more money for what it's worth on the practice squad than 15 years ago. It was like $50,000-$70,000 a year, which is, considering how much the NFL makes, was outrageous. Now it's more of an actual living. And so a lot of players are developing that way. You see it a lot where you're a practice squad god for 2 years, and then you end up getting elevated.
Yeah, those are always my favorite stories too. And it kind of goes back to my first point, is who are we not expecting to emerge, who could just totally emerge and delight all of us? That happens every year. And a lot of that journey is traveled through the practice squad or through players finding new teams. Last year was a quarterback renaissance of sorts. Players finding new teams the last couple years. Your guy Gino, obviously a big success story in that regard too. And I love those types of stories when somebody becomes in the place they're supposed to be, right? It's the path wasn't necessarily straightforward, but they ended up exactly where they're supposed to be, exactly at the time they're supposed to be in it. And I think what's really cool about most NFL players and coaches is they're so reflective about that. They can see that it's something to really process and internalize in a really cool, pure way. Be in the moment.
So
be where your feet are.
You know who got basically ignored, cast aside from his original team, kind of like you're mentioning, was a linebacker by the name of Zach Bond, who helped revolutionize the position, turned into one of the best players at the position. And you know who the man that ignored him and didn't know how to use him for so long in New Orleans, his name is Dennis Allen. And this year, we get a Dennis Allen versus Saints rivalry game. And that's one of my reasons for joy, is actually some of the hatred games that are going to go on this year. So Allen versus the Saints, that gives me joy. I think Saints fans, they don't want to go 1-16. But I can bet if you could pick one game for them to win this year, if they were to go 1-16, they'd actually take the season sweep against the Falcons, and they would beat Dennis Allen's Bears defense like a drum and get a win that day. Like that gives me joy to think about that. So it's the different rivalries around the NFL. Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
It's back.
We got that back. That's spicy.
What's your deal?
I don't know if Sean Payton has a rivalry with either Jim Harbaugh or Pete Carroll, but I could see one developing.
Oh, yeah, I could see him building one.
Right. They should have one. And then this one's a little more under the radar, but Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson.
And Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur.
Ooh, that's good too.
And Ben Johnson and everybody in the Shanahan tree.
And wait, give us a little more context on that.
Because
is there heat there?
This is one of my, I'm so glad you brought this up. Because I have so much joy thinking about these types of like interpersonal rivalries, and specifically when coaches have rivalries, it is the most fun thing in the world because you get like the subtle digs and the comments and the not so subtle digs, like Ben Johnson going up at the podium talking about how much fun it was to, beat the Packers and how he wants to continue to beat the Packers and all this stuff, and sort of not so subtly taking a shot at Matt LaFleur. And then he had some comments as well in his opening presser about how he made his way despite the fact that he doesn't have a famous last name and wasn't on these coaching staffs or forming these coaching staffs where he had a famous family member like the McVays, like the Kyle Shanahans of the world. And I think that is so spicy. And the fact that the student and the master will face off against each other, Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson at some point, I love it. I love it.
So let's listen to a little bit about Ben Johnson. From Dan Campbell. And this one's, it's not, specifically about Ben Johnson, but I've just been tracking like the increasing amount of Campbell Johnson heat under the surface.
I feel like, collectively across the board, this looks pretty good, and I would say, year 5, this is the best we felt about it, kind of top to bottom. But from where we've come year after year, we've taken it another level, and that's a credit to Brad. What Brad's done in the personnel department is outstanding, man.
We're the best from top to bottom. Now, who's no longer in the top to bottom? Ben Johnson. I admit, I'm stretching it to include.
We're reaching a tiny bit.
I'm joking. In terms of that quote saying it, but I do think the Lions feel great about where they are. And when I heard Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth talking about it on the Hall of Fame game, that he could tell that the Lions coaches, specifically Dan Campbell, were sick of everyone, just asking them about Ben Johnson. I was like, oh, you know how these things work. Like that absolutely was Dan Campbell in the room, just talking with Tirico and Collinsworth, like being a little spicy about Ben Johnson. And that was the way that they end up putting it out there. And
then
so
it makes his way out. It makes its way out into the world. And then you could see two players when they're asked about it, they sit and they think about it for like a hot second before they answer. Like they pause for just a second or they make a face or whatever. And they just sort of figure out. It's like they're measuring their response because clearly someone's been in their ear and being like, hey man, wait.
Having the protege in the same division is fascinating. I mean, Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay.
It's the new Kyle Sean. Because guys, they want you to know they're cool now.
Right.
But
it's that.
It's this. I love it.
Saban Belichick was a fun one, not for very long, but that was like a fun one back in the day. And while we're on the Lions, that's like actually a combination of things that give me joy. So the rivalries, but also the Lions just as like an establishment team. Like just imagine, like what if the Browns were like the best run organization in the NFL over the last 4 or 5 years?
Can't comprehend it.
What if the Jets were? Like what if the Jets were the best run organization in the NFL over the last 4 or 5 years? Like that's where we are with the Lions, and we're so used to just like adjusting to new realities. But it's insane that these are the Lions, and now this is sort of officially the year where they are just that establishment team that's expected to be amazing. Like the ascent has essentially stopped as a regular season win total basis. You can't get any. I mean, you can barely get higher than they've been. But I love that. I love that they've been so good that they're the bullies on the block now. Like just 5 years removed from being the freaking Lions.
And that's how Dan Campbell feels. And he's had to answer questions about somebody who's not there for several months. And I think to explain away, because we believe in all sorts of things to explain things that break trends. Some of it mystical, maybe it's the location of the stars, maybe it's magical momentum, right? And I think for the Lions, it's
just real.
Oh, there's this offensive coordinator. He's a genius. He's an absolute genius, and he's changed everything. And this has nothing to do with all the work that everybody that's still there has done. This is the reason. And I think maybe that rattles around in Dan Campbell's head. And I don't believe the Lions are going to try extra hard. I think just the circumstances of luck and the way things shake out are going to determine how good they are. But yeah, they're just going to be a good team, and that's the world we live in. To your point, Greg, like it's not the Lions, it's this edition. It's Dan Campbell's Lions, and it's fun to be here and live in it.
And they're going to play against an offense that looks a lot like their offense in Chicago, and vice versa. And how the two defenses, decide to approach it.
I don't know.
Just schematically, there was that clip from Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs on Kay Adams' show where they said, well, we see the same plays. Like it's weird just seeing them running the same plays up in Chicago. They are running the same plays.
But I feel like both of those guys you mentioned sometimes pitching the ball to each other.
Yeah,
that's the most unique aspects of that. That's not. It's like it feels like a different play, right? If it's Rome Odunze and
fair
Colston Loveland.
I just think that there's such a long-term potential in the NFC North now. Matt LaFleur got there and established himself as a really, high productive winning coach. Then you have like Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes building this thing out into something super special, something recognized as one of, I think, America's favorite teams right now, certainly for the last several years. Watching them climb up from nothing essentially was such a great story and a feel-good story for a lot of reasons. Then Kevin O'Connell is like in himself kind of the emblematic of the modern coach, right? The quarterback whisperer who also builds a culture, goes out and hires Brian Flores, running like the most badass defense, one of the most badass defenses in the NFL. And then now it's like, okay, the Bears got to start swinging at throwing their weight around a little bit. They got to start swinging up to their weight class a little bit because now you're behind. The Bears as an organization, you are behind what all of these other groups have built. And so, yeah, you better be chippy. I loved his chippy comments. I love the fact that there's this tension brewing up there because that is what will get the Bears out of the dust, essentially, because they are far behind these other organizations.
It's maybe the spiciest division league. If I had to just pick one division where I want to watch all the games this year, might be NFC North. All right, I'm almost out of there. Is there any other reasons for joy you guys want to throw out?
I just want to say I'm going to love watching these specific defenses. That these will bring me joy. The Vikings, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Cardinals, the Broncos, the Eagles, and the Rams. I think these are going to be the most interesting defenses in the NFL. What's cool is it's all for different reasons. It's all slightly different strategies. It's definitely different schemes. The way they think about pressure is all different, one over another. The way they think about coverage and how they want to shape coverage around the routes that are developing against them. It all is so unique. We're getting so many different fingerprints on defense the same way we have seen so many different fingerprints on offense. And there's this real individuality happening there from team to team, even within the same coaching trees, that I absolutely love. Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald, you're going to see two totally different defenses by those guys this year, even though they're from the same quote-unquote system, right? Zach Orr with the Ravens, you're going to see totally different stuff than him and Jesse Minter are running, even though they're from the same quote-unquote family. I love that. And nobody can run what Brian Flores is running, right? And so I think that this is the individuality in what has been thought of as such a monolithic side of the ball for so many years. It's really cool, and I think it gives more coaches an opportunity to show who they are.
I want to see defense being back. There is this idea that defenses are getting some sort of advantage, and then like the numbers just don't support it in any way, form, or fashion.
Right.
Like literally last year was the second highest yards per carry in the history of the NFL. Part of it was the kickoff.
A couple teams probably
right.
Did that a little bit.
Yeah, but that's how these things happen. Like the kickoff return was part of it, but in terms of like scoring on a percentage of the drives that you had, it was literally the highest in the history of the NFL. So everything is weighted towards the offense, and this isn't my reason for joy, but I hope we get some some big plays there. Back. Bring it back.
That is one of my reasons for joy.
Oh,
and he's not on a Brian Flores defense anymore, but Cam Bynum kind of being the celebrations coordinator for that Vikings team. I don't know how many celebrations this Colts defense we'll be able to do. But I do think, right, because looking back at a league that tried to ban celebrations and it made it a penalty, into how far that we've come to like where we could celebrate Cam Bynum having his team do the entire dance and routine from White Chicks. Like that's special. And so I'm excited. It does bring me joy, and I hope, maybe he'll have a chance to dance in the end zone for the Colts.
Yeah, I could see the Colts being feisty, a little Lou Anarumo-sance. We got the Brandon
Anarumo-sance.
We got the Brandon Staley-sance. We got a lot of sances.
The Staley-sance you can stop, but Anarumo-sance, we're riding with that the whole season.
Got some players up front. Got your various Ward. We could have some fun there. The Colts, they're gonna need it. They're gonna need
There's more joy on that
I've
side
been
of the ball.
listening to some of the press conference coming out of there lately, and I'm like, oh my God, is anyone here happy?
Steichen not giving me many reasons for joy, not looking too joyful. And yes, as we wrap up here, I'm joyful to be getting to do another spin around this NFL Daily regular season. Don't want to be too navel-gazing. Like we end the regular season, we look back at what a great time, an accomplishment that was. And we did get to the before the summer started, and this is what being in the NFL is kind of like. Like you have these little mileposts of the season, but man, I feel better about this show and love doing this show on another level compared to when we were doing it to start out. I loved that too, but there is something about, to use the quarterback analogy, about like going through an entire season of this new show where the game feels like it's coming at us slower, and it lets you just enjoy it and free it up. And like, I'm very excited like to be able to do this with you two specifically, but everyone who joins our show regularly. Like, and I'm really think it's going to be good. I think this last month is the best month we've had on NFL Daily too.
I mean, I've had a blast. I could tell you are feeling good and like ready for season 2, because what brings me joy is that Gregg has started to cite specific like segment themes as a part of his natural flow of conversation. So like you've used "I can fix him,"
Sure,
in your normal conversation. You've said "stand on the tiny table" a few times. Obviously, we know of the lore now that is Quarterback Island. I always think the mark of a really good show is when listeners and the show itself is let in on the inside joke, has the callbacks, understands the lore, and I do think that that's what is cool to be a part of building. That brings me a lot of joy.
A lot of Jourdan this year too.
And well,
that's a big part of it.
When I heard you say, like on a random show a few weeks ago, standing on the tiny table, you meant to say stand on the table. You said stand on the tiny.
I think I did it on purpose. I did it on purpose. That was a little note.
I never felt so seen in my life. It was great.
It's like Sean McDermott saying "Buffalo to a core" a million times on the promo for Hard Knocks, and it's like, is it at its core? Or is it to a T? Well, we've combined them. We've crossed idioms.
Oh, I love
it. Poor coach, he's had to hear that a billion times. Like people have heard my stuff way too much. But I'm looking for my second year in the Gregg Rosenthal offense. I recognize that there's only one football. But I just want to make plays for my.
Oh, you'll be there in the big shows, the preview show. And the recap show. There's no bigger
He's every down
moments.
guy.
He's a big game player.
Every down guy.
Who takes advantage of momentum.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is real.
And you know how I know I like I made it the first show of Reasons for Joy, and we're doing it again here because I did want it to be like we take the job seriously, but it's a sport. Like if you're not having fun doing it, what really is the point? Usually, and this was a truism with Chris Wesley and I, we would always talk about it. August is the hardest month. Because you're working the hardest and it's going in a million different directions, but the games aren't real. You know what I mean? Like you're actually working as hard or harder than the regular season, but it's not as fun ultimately as the regular season because the games are real. And I feel about as energized and like I actually enjoyed this preseason as any I can remember in a long time. So I feel like I got good wind and good energy because you guys are keeping it high.
Best shape of its podcast life,
yes,
baby.
Exactly.
Can't wait to disappoint you by week 3.
I was gonna say like revisit this in a couple of weeks. That's it. Great week on the show. We will be back in the feed, starting to preview actual games Thursday, Friday night football, but we'll also have a 40s and free agents preview of the season where we go through and draft are potential Super Bowl champions. It is that time of year. Football's back.